I found out we had a cricket team when I saw the stumps being put up in the summer. I had no idea that Wimbledon College had a cricket team. We were sort of not part of what Wimbledon College liked about Wimbledon College.
So instead of taking in the comprehensive, they just ran parallel schools?
Yeah. There was a big speech where they came to our school before Wimbledon College where they said, well, you're going to be put into streams, but this is no major... Are we judging you as people or whatever? They went into this big speech, which only years later I thought, well, why did they make that speech? Because that's exactly what they were doing. It was very odd. There was a dramatic society, I found out after about 4 years, that used to meet every Friday. I'd have loved to have got involved in something like that. So it was being an outsider in your own school, very much. See, this is where I came up against the class thing a lot. I was in the sixth form. I was standing by the hot drinks machine in the sixth form common room and having a laugh, and no doubt I've got a loud laugh. And this sixth former from the old grammar school intake tapped me on the shoulder and said, "It's scum like you that gives this place a bad name." And I remembered that, word for word. Somebody says that to you, and I was humiliated, and I blushed, and just, what had I done wrong? While other boys my age had a poster of Charlie's Angels on their bedroom wall, I had a poster of Laurel and Hardy. They were wearing bikinis, so I was halfway there. While other boys were listening to David Bowie albums in their bedroom, I was listening to an LP of Michael Parkinson interviewing Peter Sellers. I was reading books about comedy, almost as if comedy was a language like French. I was trying to put together an idea of it before I even got to practice it myself as to, is there a grammar to be understood? So you've got the combination of being very lonely, shy then leads to loneliness, and also having this ambition of wanting to do what I wanted to do. And certainly at that point I never mentioned to anybody at school, well, it's a laughable thing to say, I want to be a comedian. It was the equivalent of saying I wanted to be an astronaut. There was a teacher called Mr. McClave who I got up one day in his English class. We were doing English A-level. And I did a pre-prepared little act thing in front of a class of about 12 people. And he said to me afterwards, I'd be about 16 at the time, he said, that was very good. He said, you ought to be on the stage. And by having an adult say that to me was just... it lifted me 10 feet up in the air.
Despite this encouragement, when he left school at 18, he found employment working as a clerical officer at Tooting Bec Labour Exchange. 3 years later, his theatrical ambitions got the better of him, and he gave up the job. With a school friend, John Irwin, he moved into an unheated and dilapidated flat in South London. They lived on the dole, hoping to find some way to break into the comedy business.
This is a very old Standard 8 film on a gauge that's no longer made. I'm just trying to work out what this is. I haven't seen this for 20 odd years. I seem to remember that West Norwood Station, we used to go to Wimbledon every Saturday. Every Saturday afternoon we'd go to jumble sales, or it's just a complete waste of a life. We were very strange. We were living far removed from the mainstream of society. You would have seen us walking around West Norwood with long hair, beard, army coats, desert boots, just like faintly wealthy tramps. We were really out on a limb. I shot some 8mm film with my family when I was about sort of 14, 15, but I never featured in it. I wanted to be the one operating the camera, not the one in the film, again being shy. But that's the only move in the footage, moving in the sense of animated rather than tear-jerking.
when did you and your friend are in this, a bit like a sort of junior version of Waiting for Godot?
It is, yeah, it is. It's Samuel Beckett
tramps.
Jr. Yeah, exactly. waiting for a BBC commissioner to say yes.
So when did you think something had happened? What
We did in the end, we managed to scrape together the money to do the Swansea Fringe Festival in 1981. I'd sent off some details for Edinburgh, and they sent back saying, we'd love to have you. It would cost £800 for your name to be in the programme. It will cost this amount. And this was just totally beyond what we could afford. But there was a little leaflet that came through said, Swansea Fringe Festival, £5 entry fee. So that was much more in our... So we sent off our £5, and we hired a church hall for £5 a night. It was just me and John did some sketches that we'd written. We didn't have a director. We didn't know anybody else. There was no director. There was no administrator. There was nothing like that. We sold our own tickets at the door. When we thought, well, it's 8 o'clock now, nobody else is going to come in, we put the lights on and went on and did it. In front of... One night we had, I think, 17 people. We were going double figures. There's a guy from The Guardian that came to review us very early on, and we took him to the pub and said, look, we don't want you to review the show. Just say something that we can use as a quote, like, very good access for parking, then we can take very good out or whatever, we're very naive. I was very lucky that somewhere like the Comedy Store, the Comedy Store opened up in 1979, and people like Alexi Sale and Rick Mell and those kind of people came along when I was about 22, 23, which meant I could then get up on stage and just have a go. There was a court case in the papers, late 70s, called Operation Julie, which was a bunch of policemen had found a factory that had been making LSD tablets, and they'd gone in because there was a lot of LSD dust in the air. They had ingested this stuff, inhaled this stuff, and then we're going to the pub. And I remember seeing this hilarious news item where a policeman was saying, well, I was sharing a pint of beer with Detective Inspector Warren when I noticed that my pint of beer started getting bigger and then becoming purple in colour. I mentioned this to my superior, who had now become a tarantula. And it was that sort of thing. So I wrote this sketch up as a policeman giving evidence in court, but describing, here he is now, describing his LSD trip that somebody has given him. I was on top of a bus shelter. I met Marilyn Monroe. I saw PC, I can't remember the lines now, but I saw PC Bradshaw approach me disguised as a fortnight's holiday in Benidorm. It was that sort of stuff, so very surreal and stuff. And the audience loved it. They really loved it. And they encore. I had 4.5 minutes. I went back on and did it again. That's all I could do. But that night, I walked all the way home from the Comedy Store, which was above a strip club in Soho, and John was in the audience that night, John Irving. We walked all the way back to Streatham, to the bedsit. I got back at about 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was one of the most extraordinary few hours of my life, because you can't be funny by fluke. If you've written something and you intend it to be funny and an audience laughs, you've cracked it. That's all you have to do. But that was the moment where I just thought, well, I know that's not a fluke. That's happened because I have got talent. I can do this.
I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Paul Merton.
The Comedy Store led to bookings at London clubs and cabarets, and after 5 years, to his first television series.
During the Blitz, in the Second World War, my dad used to say, don't worry about the bombs. The only bombs you've got to worry about are the ones that have got your names written on them. That really scared the next door neighbours, Mr. and Mrs. Doodlebug.
Also on the cabaret circuit was another young comedian who was soon to become a television star.
Ladies and gentlemen, Julian Clary!
Between them, they dreamed up and eventually co-wrote the game show Sticky Moments for Channel 4.
Not a dry seat in the house, thank you. Well, welcome to Sticky Moments, the show I wanted to call Stick Your Hand Up. I was very surprised to find myself getting on so well with a clearly, heterosexual man from a completely different world from my own.